The air in the first-class cabin was thick with entitlement, the kind that made Cheryl Williams, a flight attendant with a permanently pinched expression, feel like she owned the sky. Her eyes landed on the two black teenagers seated in 2A and 2B like they were stains on her pristine uniform. "Let me guess," she drawled loud enough for the surrounding passengers to hear. "You two got lost on your way to coach." Zara Thompson lowered her book slowly, her fingers tightening around the edges. Next to her, Nia set down her orange juice, the ice clinking like a warning. Cheryl's gaze flicked over their designer bags, a Michael Kors duffel, a Coach backpack, as if they were counterfeit. "These seats aren't for joyriders," she sneered, jabbing a finger toward the rear of the plane. A businessman in 3C shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. Zara's voice was calm, but her hands betrayed a slight tremor as she held out her boarding pass. "Seat 2A, printed by the airline, not my printer." Cheryl snatched at her acrylic nails, tapping the paper like she was testing for forgery. "Nice try," she scoffed. "Next time, pick a lie you can afford." Nia's phone was already up, the red live icon blinking. "Mind repeating that for my followers?" she asked sweetly. The viewer count exploded, 200, then 500 as Cheryl's face twisted. "You can't film here," she barked, but it was too late. The hashtag Skyline scandal was trending by the time gate supervisor Janet Price arrived, her heels clicking like a countdown. Janet took one look at the twins and sighed as if their presence was a personal inconvenience. "Girls, we don't have time for games." She didn't even glance at their tickets before waving over security. Officer Rodriguez lumbered down the aisle, his hand resting on his belt as if the situation required riot gear. "Let's make this easy," he said, but Nia cut him off. "Oh, we will." She tilted her screen toward him, the comments flooding in. "This is racism. I work for Skyline's corporate. This is not policy." And for the first time, Cheryl's confidence wavered. Then came the twist. A voice from row 4, deep and authoritative. "I'm a lawyer, and you're all about to be unemployed." The cabin fell silent. The man stood pulling out a business card with the kind of firm name that made corporations sweat. Cheryl's mouth opened, but no sound came out. By the time the pilot announced the delay due to an internal matter, Skyline's PR team was already drafting the apology, and Cheryl's resume was as good as shredded. Officer Rodriguez loomed over the twins, his hand resting on his cuffs like they were already criminals. "Last warning," he growled, but Nia didn't flinch. Her phone was steady, the live stream now at 500,000 viewers. "Officer, you're about to make national news," she said, her voice sharp as glass. Behind them, Sarah Martinez's Instagram story was blowing up, her DMs flooded with messages from journalists. David Parker had already hit send on his LinkedIn post, his fingers flying over the tablet. "Skyline Airlines is about to learn what happens when you profile the wrong passengers." Then came the twist no one expected. A voice crackled over the plane's PA system, not the captain, but a flight attendant from the back. Janet." The young attendant, a black woman named Keisha, sounded frantic. "Corporate's on the line. They're demanding we stand down immediately." Janet's face went pale. Cheryl spun around, her sneer faltering. "What?" Zara's phone buzzed again. This time she answered. "Dad." Before she could finish, the cabin door burst open. A man in a tailored suit strode in, flanked by 2 airport executives. Gasps rippled through first class. It was Marcus Thompson Zara, and Nia's father, and the CEO of Thompson Aerospace, Skyline's biggest corporate partner. His expression was ice. "Janet," he said, slow and deliberate, "you just threatened to arrest my daughters." The silence was suffocating. Janet's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Cheryl took a step back, her heel catching on a stray Hermes scarf ZT glinting in the light. Then the dam broke. Nia's live stream hit 1 million viewers. David Parker stood holding up his tablet. "CNN just picked this up." Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. Rodriguez cuff her, he said, nodding at Cheryl. For harassment. And Janet, pack your desk. Your airline just lost its fleet contract. The applause started in coach slow, then thunderous. A teenage boy in row 12 shouted, "About time!" By the time the news vans pulled up to the gate, Skyline's stock had already dropped 8%. And Cheryl, she was still stammering into Nia's camera. I didn't realize, Zara smiled sweetly. Yeah, that's the problem. The air in the cabin crackled with tension as Officer Thompson repeated his demand, his hand hovering near his cuffs. Last chance, girls, move or we drag you out. Nia's phone trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of 5,000 live viewers bearing witness. Zara took a deep breath and finally answered her father's call. Dad. Yeah, we've got a situation. Then came the sound no one expected, a sharp gasp from the flight attendant Keisha, who'd been silently watching from the galley. Her phone screen showed a breaking news alert. Skyline stock plummets 12% after viral discrimination video. She held it up, her voice shaking. Janet, we're trending worldwide. Janet's smug expression faltered. Cheryl's manicured fingers flew to her mouth as her phone started buzzing nonstop, text after text from friends. Cheryl, turn on the news. But the real twist came when Officer Thompson's radio crackled to life. His sergeant's voice boomed through the static. Thompson, stand down immediately. I repeat, stand down. Corporate just fired the entire flight crew over this. A collective gasp swept through the cabin. The businessman in 4A stood abruptly, his face alight with vindication. I told you, he shouted at Rodriguez. I told you to check their damn tickets. Then a new voice, deep authoritative, echoing from the jet bridge. That won't be necessary. Every head turned. There, flanked by three grim-faced executives in Skyline lanyards, stood Congresswoman Eleanor Shaw, the chair of the Transportation Committee. Her sharp heels clicked like gunshots as she strode toward the chaos. I was on my way to D.C. when this disgrace popped up on my feed. Her glare swept over the stunned airline staff. Janet Price. You're relieved, permanently. The cabin erupted. Passengers cheered. Someone started chanting, fire them all, as Nia's viewer count hit 10,000. But the knockout punch came from Zara. Still holding her phone, she said quietly, Dad wants to talk to Congresswoman Shaw. Then with perfect timing, she hit speakerphone. Marcus Thompson's voice filled the silence. Eleanor cancels Skyline's military transport contracts, effective immediately. As the flight attendants burst into tears and Officer Rodriguez frantically uncuffed his own handcuffs, he'd accidentally locked them while panicking. One final text flashed on Cheryl's phone from Skyline HR. Your termination paperwork is ready. Security will escort you out. Nia kept filming as the twins finally took their rightful seats. The stream title now read, How to Destroy Racism in 17 Minutes. The light counter was climbing too fast to read. The moment Officer Thompson pulled out the zip ties, the cabin erupted. David Chen stepped into the aisle, blocking his path. You're about to make the biggest mistake of your career, he warned, his phone still recording. Behind him, retired Judge Eleanor Hutchinson rose with the quiet authority of someone who'd spent decades presiding over courtrooms. Young man, she said, her voice cutting through the chaos, I suggest you call your supervisor before you do something that can't be undone. Then came the sound that changed everything, a sharp ding from the cockpit. The captain's voice, unsteady for the first time, crackled over the PA. Folks, we've been ordered to stand down by corporate headquarters immediately. A collective gasp filled the cabin. Cheryl's face went sheet white as her phone buzzed with a notification from Skyline's HR department, a termination notice with her name in bold. But the real shock came when the jet bridge door burst open again. This time it wasn't just executives. A tall woman in a navy suit marched in, flanked by camera crews. Congresswoman Alicia Mendez, someone whispered. The room fell silent as she held up a hand. I was boarding my connecting flight when this disgrace hit my timeline. Her glare swept over the trembling airline staff. Cheryl Williams, Janet Price. You're done. And Officer Thompson, put those cuffs away before I have your badge. Nia's live stream hit 15,000 viewers just as a new development flashed across screens nationwide. Skyline's stock ticker SLA plummeted another 9% in after-hours trading. The chyron on CNN read Airline in free fall as racism scandal goes viral. Then the knockout punch. Zara's phone rang once more. This time she answered on speaker. A deep, furious voice boomed through first class. Marcus Thompson, their father, live on air with MSNBC. Let me make this clear, he thundered. My daughter's tickets were purchased legally. The only criminals here are the ones trying to drag them out of their seats. As if on cue, the cockpit door opened. Captain Martinez emerged, his cap in hand. Ladies, he said to the twins, his voice thick with shame. On behalf of Skyline Airlines, when we deeply apologize. The words hung in the air like a death sentence for the company's reputation. In seat 4A, David Chen smirked as he tapped send on a tweet that would get 50,000 retweets in an hour. Congratulations, Skyline. You just lost $1 billion in market cap in 17 minutes. Was the racism worth it? The last thing viewers saw before Nia ended the stream was Cheryl sobbing into her hands and the twins calmly buckling their seatbelts as the crew scrambled to serve them champagne. The title flashing across social media said it all. How two teenagers took down an airline before breakfast. The zip ties bit into Zara's wrists as Officer Thompson yanked her forward, but she planted her feet firmly. Sir, she said, her voice steady despite the storm raging around them. Before you drag us off this plane, you might want to check who's calling. She tilted her buzzing phone toward him, the screen now flashing with a new caller. Gov, office, urgent. A hush fell over first class. Even Cheryl froze, her triumphant smirk slipping as she caught a glimpse of the caller ID. Then chaos erupted from the jet bridge. 3 men in suits came barreling down the aisle, their faces slick with sweat. Stop everything! The lead man, Skyline's VP of Operations, was waving his arms wildly. Thompson, stand down now, corporate orders. Nia's live stream, now at 25,000 viewers, captured the exact moment Officer Thompson's radio crackled to life. His sergeant's voice boomed through the cabin. Code 99, abort all actions on Flight 447. I repeat, abort immediately. Janet Price's phone suddenly came alive with a flood of notifications. Dozens of missed calls from Skyline executives. The last text made her blood run cold. You're on CNN, pack your desk. But the real twist came from seat 1A. Retired Judge Hutchinson stood producing a small silver badge from her purse. As a federal officer of the court, I'm placing you all under citizen's arrest for civil rights violations. The cabin erupted in applause as she pointed at Cheryl. Especially you, Missy. Then a new voice cut through the noise. Zara had finally answered her phone on speaker. This is Governor William, announced a voice that made every airline employee flinch. My office is 2 blocks from that gate. Everyone involved in this travesty will be meeting with state attorneys within the hour. The VP of Operations actually whimpered. Cheryl collapsed into a seat, her perfect bun unraveling as she realized too late that the Hermes bag she'd mocked had cost more than her yearly salary. Nia kept filming as a flight attendant rushed forward with scissors to cut the zip ties. The stream title now read, Live How to Bankrupt a Racist Airline in 20 Minutes. And in the background, barely audible over the celebrating passengers, came the sound of Janet Price vomiting into a first-class barf bag. The moment Dr. Thompson's voice boomed through the cabin, you could hear a pin drop. Even the hum of the plane's engines seemed to quiet in anticipation. Let me make something perfectly clear. Dr. Thompson continued, his voice deceptively calm. My daughter's tickets were purchased directly through Skyline's website. First-class round trip. I have the confirmation emails and credit card receipts right here. A sharp gasp came from the galley. Keisha, the junior flight attendant, had just pulled up the reservation on her tablet. Janet, she whispered, her voice shaking. Their names are in the system. They're VIP guests. The color drained from Janet's face. Cheryl's manicured hands began trembling so violently she dropped her walkie-talkie. But Officer Thompson looked like he might be sick when Dr. Thompson added, "And while we're at it, perhaps someone should explain why my daughters are in restraints when their only crime was sitting in seats they paid for." The cabin erupted. "Unbelievable," shouted David Chen, jumping to his feet. "Hey, this is disgusting," cried Sarah Martinez, zooming her phone camera in on Cheryl's panicked face. Nia's livestream viewer count exploded past 30,000 as the comments flooded in. "Fire them all. Skyline is finished, and those poor girls." Then, the sound of running footsteps. The cockpit door flew open as Captain Martinez emerged, his face ashen. "Everyone stand down," he ordered. "Corporate just grounded our entire crew." Janet swayed on her feet. "What?" But the knockout punch came next. Dr. Thompson's voice turned icy. "I suggest someone remove those restraints immediately because in exactly..." A dramatic pause. 30 seconds, Skyline's board will be voting to terminate everyone involved in this incident. As if on cue, Cheryl's phone started ringing. The caller ID showed Skyline HR. She didn't need to answer to know what it meant. The wildest twist. When Officer Thompson fumbled to cut the zip ties, his hands shook so badly he nearly dropped the scissors. The once arrogant cop was now mumbling apologies like a chastised child. And Nia, she kept filming every glorious second, the stream now titled "How Dad Ended Racism on Flight 447 in 3 minutes. The last thing viewers saw before the feed ended was Zara calmly taking her seat, and Cheryl being escorted off the plane in tears by airport security. The cabin became absolutely still as Dr. Thompson's words hung in the air. Even the constant hum of the air conditioning seemed to pause in anticipation. "Let me be perfectly clear," Dr. Thompson continued, his voice dropping to a dangerous calm. "In exactly 60 seconds, I will be calling an emergency meeting of our board to review all contracts with Skyline Airlines. And unless my daughters receive a full public apology from every single person involved in this incident, those contracts will be terminated immediately." A collective gasp swept through first class. The businessman in 4A actually choked on his drink. "They can't operate without Thompson Aerospace," he whispered to his neighbor. "That's their entire maintenance fleet." Janet Price's hands began shaking so violently she dropped her clipboard. The metallic clang echoed through the silent cabin. Cheryl looked like she might be sick, her face turning a ghastly shade of pale. Then, the sound no one expected. A loud ping from the cockpit. The captain's voice, now noticeably strained, came over the PA. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We've been ordered to return to the gate immediately due to, corporate emergency protocols." The moment the announcement finished, every phone in first class seemed to buzz simultaneously. David Chen in 4A held up his screen showing a breaking news alert: Skyline stock plummets 18% in after-hours trading. But the real drama unfolded at the front of the cabin. Officer Thompson, now sweating profusely, fumbled with his keys to remove the zip ties from Zara's wrists. "Ma'am, I deeply apologize." He stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. Nia kept filming as Janet Price stepped forward, her professional facade completely shattered. "Girls, we made a terrible mistake," she began. But Zara simply held up a hand. "Save it for the press conference," she said, coolly rubbing her wrists. "Dad says CNN is setting up in the terminal right now." The final humiliation came when Cheryl's walkie-talkie crackled to life. "All crew members involved in the Flight 447 incident report to HR immediately. Security will escort you from the premises." As the plane taxied back to the gate, Nia's live stream hit 50,000 viewers. The title said it all: How to Lose $2 Billion in 10 Minutes, a Skyline Airlines story. And in seat 2A, Zara Thompson quietly opened her book again, the very picture of calm. While around her an airline's reputation burned to the ground, the cabin erupted into chaos as Dr. Thompson's words sank in. Retired Judge Hutchinson stood like a pillar of justice in seat 1A, her voice cutting through the noise. "I'll be submitting an affidavit to the Department of Transportation today." This was textbook racial profiling. Then came the sound that sealed Skyline's fate. A collective ping as every phone in first class received the same Bloomberg alert. Skyline Airlines SLO shares halted after 24% plump. Largest single-day drop in company history. David Chen whistled low. "There goes $500 million in market cap," he announced to the cabin, holding up his tablet where the stock chart showed a vertical red line. But the real drama unfolded at the front of the plane. Janet Price's walkie-talkie suddenly blared to life with the panicked voice of Skyline's CEO. "Janet, what the hell are you doing? We just lost our entire West Coast maintenance coverage." The blood drained from Janet's face as Dr. Thompson delivered the final blow. "Oh, and one more thing. Our legal team just filed an emergency injunction with the FAA. All Skyline aircraft maintained by Thompson Aerospace are grounded until further notice." A collective gasp swept through the cabin. The businessman in 4C groaned. He just realized his connecting flight was on Skyline. Nia's live stream, now at 75,000 viewers, captured the exact moment Cheryl collapsed into a flight attendant's jump seat, her perfect makeup streaked with tears. The comments exploded. "Bye, Cheryl. There goes her pension. First class to unemployment." Then, the twist no one saw coming. A uniformed pilot came barreling down the jet bridge, his captain's stripes gleaming. "I'm Captain Reynolds from Flight 229, he announced breathlessly. "Corporate just ordered me to take over this aircraft. Effective immediately, all Skyline employees involved in this incident are relieved of duty." As airport security moved in to escort Janet and Cheryl off the plane, Zara finally spoke. "Before you go," she said sweetly, holding up her phone, "Delta just offered us lifetime diamond medallion status. Their CEO is watching this stream." The last image viewers saw before the feed ended was Officer Thompson desperately trying to wipe his fingerprints off the zip ties, and 22,000 people simultaneously tweeting "Boycott Skyline." As the last zip tie fell to the floor, the cabin erupted in applause. But the real drama was just beginning. A sudden commotion erupted at the aircraft door as a harried-looking man in a Skyline executive uniform burst through his tie, askew and forehead glistening with sweat. "Ladies and gentlemen," he panted, "I'm Michael Carter, VP of Customer Experience for Skyline Airlines. On behalf of our entire organization, we profoundly apologize." He turned to the twins, his hands shaking as he held out 2 first-class tickets. "These are lifetime Skyline Platinum passes, and," he swallowed hard, "we'll be making a $100,000 donation to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund in your names." The livestream comments went wild. "Are too little too late. $100K is pocket change for this. They're still getting sued." Then came the twist no one expected. From the back of first class, an elderly black woman stood up slowly. Her voice, when she spoke, carried generations of wisdom. "I flew during segregation, drank from colored-only fountains, and now I'm watching history repeat itself at 30,000 feet." She fixed Carter with a steely gaze. "Your apology ain't worth the air it's floating on." The VP looked like he might faint. Meanwhile, Nia's phone buzzed with a notification. Her live stream had just been picked up by MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News simultaneously. The viewer count hit 100,000 as the hashtag Skyline scandal trended nationwide. But the final blow came from Zara. Still rubbing her wrist, she addressed Carter directly. "Sir, with all due respect, we don't want your tickets. We don't need your donation." She held up her phone showing a real-time graph of Skyline's stock price. "What we want is for no other black kid to ever go through this again." As if on cue, the aircraft's PA system crackled to life. "Attention all passengers, this is your captain speaking. I've just been informed that Skyline's board of directors has called an emergency meeting, and our entire executive leadership team has resigned effective immediately." The cheer that erupted could be heard in coach, and in seat 2A, Zara Thompson finally allowed herself a small, satisfied smile as she watched Cheryl Williams being escorted off the plane. Her once perfect hair now disheveled, her career in ruins, and her face permanently etched into internet infamy. The live stream ended with one final message. "Racism has no first-class section. Thank you for watching History in the Making." The moment Dr. Thompson's voice boomed through the cabin, you could hear a champagne flute shatter as Cheryl dropped her drink cart service. "Let me clarify something for everyone." Dr. Thompson continued, his voice dripping with quiet fury. "When we say termination without notice, we mean all 127 Skyline aircraft currently in our maintenance network will be grounded within the hour. That includes every plane mid-flight right now." A collective gasp swept through first class. The businessman in 3C choked on his whiskey. That's physically impossible," Janet Price stammered. "Oh," Dr. Thompson's tone turned dangerous. "Then you've never seen our remote maintenance override system in action. Our technicians can disable non-critical systems from headquarters. Not enough to endanger flights, but enough to keep every plane on the ground until inspected." Nia's live stream viewer count hit 250,000 as aviation professionals flooded the comments. "Oh, holy shit, they can do that. That's why Delta pays them 3 months. Skyline is actually finished." Then came the sound no one expected. The captain's voice shaking over the PA. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've just received special instructions from corporate. All Skyline flights are being diverted for immediate maintenance checks." The cabin erupted. A flight attendant burst into tears. Janet Price collapsed into a jump seat, her face ashen. But the knockout punch came from Zara. Still rubbing her wrists, she addressed the trembling Officer Thompson. "Sir, you might want to check your retirement account. Skyline stock just hit circuit breakers, down 29% in 15 minutes. The VP of Operations, now sweating through his suit, made one last desperate play. "Dr. Thompson, surely we can—" 11:31, came the icy reply. "The clock started when my daughters were restrained. You have 17 minutes left to make this right." As if on cue, every phone in first class buzzed with a breaking news alert. "FAA grounds all Skyline aircraft pending urgent safety review. Sources confirm Thompson Aerospace initiated action." The last thing viewers saw before Nia ended the stream was Cheryl hyperventilating into an oxygen mask, and 250,000 people simultaneously tweeting the same phrase, "Black girls fly too." The cabin fell into stunned silence as Dr. Thompson's words hung in the air. Then came a sound that made every Skyline employee's blood run cold, the distinctive chime of a corporate email notification. Janet Price's tablet lit up with an urgent all-staff memo. "Effective immediately, all Thompson Aerospace maintenance services suspended. Ground teams instructed to cease operations. Fleet inspection hold ordered by FAA." A flight attendant gasped. That's our entire schedule for the next 72 hours. The businessman in 4A suddenly stood, his face alight with realization. "My God, I just got an alert that Skyline stock has been halted from trading. Circuit breaker triggered at 32% down, but the real drama unfolded at 30,000 feet, literally." Nia's live stream captured the exact moment a nearby Skyline flight attendant received a panicked call from her husband, a pilot. "Hey babe, they just diverted my Miami flight back to Atlanta mid-route, said something about mandatory Thompson inspections." Cheryl Williams began openly sobbing, her perfect makeup streaking down her face. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." Dr. Thompson's voice turned deadly calm. "That's the problem, Cheryl. You didn't need to know who they were. You just needed to treat them like human beings. Then, the twist that sent the live stream comments into overdrive. A new voice came through Zara's phone. "Hi Marcus, it's Raj from Boeing. We're watching this unfold. Just wanted you to know our new 787 training contracts. We're pulling them from Skyline effective immediately." The cabin erupted. Janet Price collapsed into a seat, her 20-year career evaporating before her eyes. Officer Thompson actually took off his badge and set it on a tray table, whispering, "I'm so sorry," to the twins. But the final humiliation came when the aircraft's Wi-Fi suddenly displayed a banner notification. "Attention. This Skyline flight has been reassigned to Delta Airlines operating crew per emergency corporate directive. Please welcome your new flight attendants." As a team of Delta employees boarded wearing "We Don't Discriminate" pins, Nia's live stream hit 500,000 viewers. The last comment visible before she signed off said it all. "RIP Skyline Airlines, 1997-2023. Cause of death: racism and bad business decisions." The air in the cabin grew thick with tension as the full weight of Dr. Thompson's words settled over everyone. Then came a sound that made every Skyline employee's blood run cold, the sharp ping of a breaking news alert. Skyline Airlines. Stock halted after 38% plunge, largest single-day drop in aviation history. David Chen in 4A let out a low whistle. That's $1.2 billion in market cap. Gone. But the real shock came when the cockpit door suddenly swung open. The captain, face pale, stepped out and addressed the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been instructed to inform you that this aircraft and all Skyline flights currently in the air are being diverted for immediate maintenance inspections by order of the FAA." A collective gasp filled the cabin. A flight attendant dropped her drink cart. Janet Price swayed on her feet, her lips moving soundlessly as if doing mental math on how many careers had just ended in this single moment. Then the twist that sent Nia's live stream into overdrive. A new notification flashed across Zara's phone. She held it up for the cabin to see a text from an unknown number with a single line. "American Airlines CEO here. Your father has our full support. Skyline's slots at JFK and LAX are now ours." The businessman in 3C burst out laughing. "Oh my God, they're not just losing maintenance, they're losing gates." Cheryl, now slumped against the galley wall, whispered, "I just wanted them to move." Retired Judge Hutchinson turned to her, eyes blazing. "That's the problem. You saw two black girls in first class and assumed they didn't belong. Not their fault. Your imagination was too small to understand who they actually were." As if on cue, the aircraft's PA system crackled to life one final time. "Attention passengers, this is a Delta Airlines gate agent. We've been instructed to inform you that all Skyline crew members involved in today's incident are hereby relieved of duty. A Delta team is boarding now to take over this flight." The applause was deafening. Nia's live stream, now at 750,000 viewers, captured the exact moment Janet Price's employee badge deactivated itself with an ominous click, the magnetic strip wiped clean by corporate remote command. The last image broadcasted before she signed off. Zara Thompson calmly buckling her seatbelt as the new Delta crew served her champagne. The chyron on the seatback screen said it all. Skyline Air lives terminated. The cabin fell into stunned silence as the CEO's voice echoed through the speakerphone. Then came the sound that would haunt Skyline executives for years, the sharp ding of a Bloomberg terminal alert. And breaking: Skyline Airlines. CEO Patricia Williams resigns effective immediately. David Chen in 4A actually stood and applauded. "There goes the first domino," he announced to the cabin, holding up his phone where Skyline's stock chart showed a vertical red line. But the real drama unfolded at the front of the plane. As Dr. Thompson continued speaking, a uniformed Delta captain appeared at the jet bridge door holding a stack of paperwork. "By order of the Department of Transportation," he announced, "this aircraft is being re-registered to Delta Airlines mid-flight. Skyline crew, you are relieved of duty." Janet Price's knees buckled. Cheryl's security badge spontaneously deactivated with an ominous beep, the RFID chip remotely wiped by corporate HQ. Then the twist that sent Nia's live stream over 1 million views. A new voice came through Zara's phone. "This is Senator Harris's office. We're drafting new anti-discrimination legislation called the Thompson Twins Act as we speak." The cabin erupted. Retired Judge Hutchinson actually wiped tears from her eyes. "About damn time," she muttered. But the final humiliation came when the aircraft's Wi-Fi suddenly rebooted the splash screen, now displaying Delta's logo and a new message. "Welcome to Delta Flight 447. Skyline service has been permanently discontinued." As the Delta crew moved through first class offering complimentary upgrades and apology champagne, Zara leaned toward Nia's still recording phone. "Remember," she said softly, "they didn't apologize because it was wrong. They apologized because we were somebody." The live stream ended with one final image, Cheryl Williams being escorted off the plane by Delta security, her once pristine uniform now stripped of all Skyline insignia. The Chiron on CNN said it all. Yet how two teenagers changed an industry in 54 minutes. The cabin erupted in applause as CEO Williams outlined the reforms, but the real shock came when the aircraft's Wi-Fi suddenly updated with a breaking news alert. A Skyline Airlines announces industry-wide Fly Equal initiative. Delta and American to adopt policies immediately. Nia's live stream viewer count hit 1.5 million as aviation professionals flooded the comments. Holy shit, they're actually doing it. This will change air travel forever. Those girls just rewrote corporate policy. Then came the moment no one expected. A flight attendant from coach pushed through the curtain, her Skyline pin already removed. "Excuse me," she said, voice shaking with emotion. "I just want the twins to know half the crew back there refused to serve first class when this started. We were ready to walk off this plane for you." The cabin exploded in cheers. Retired Judge Hutchinson stood addressing CEO Williams through the phone. "Patricia, you'd better give those crew members raises, not just punishments." "Already done," Williams replied instantly. "Every employee who showed solidarity today is receiving a $10,000 bonus and fast-tracked promotion." But the knockout punch came from Zara. Still holding her phone, she asked quietly, "What about Cheryl?" The silence was deafening. All eyes turned to the disgraced flight attendant now slumped against the galley wall. CEO Williams' voice turned steely. "Ms. Williams is being escorted from the airport as we speak. Her photo is being added to our industry-wide no-fly list, and—" A dramatic pause. "We're pressing charges for unlawful restraint." The live stream captured Cheryl's final moment aboard her designer heels, clicking pathetically. As Delta security led her away, the once proud flight attendant now just another passenger on the unemployment line. As the new Delta crew served champagne, Nia signed off with a message that would be quoted for years. "Racism has no first-class section, but today, justice flew private." The screen faded to black just as Skyline's stock was permanently delisted from the NYSE. The engines roared to life as Flight 447 finally prepared for departure, but the real revolution had already taken off. Nia's phone buzzed with a final notification. Her live stream had been archived by the Smithsonian as a historic moment in civil rights. As the plane taxied, Zara glanced out the window at the news vans still crowding the tarmac. "Look," she said, pointing to the Skyline hangar where workers were already replacing the logo with Delta's signature red. But the most powerful moment came when the captain's voice filled the cabin one last time. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Before we take off, I've been instructed to inform you that today's incident has prompted an FAA mandate, effective immediately. All U.S. airlines must implement the Thompson Protocol for passenger dignity. This flight will be the first to operate under these new standards." The applause lasted all the way down the runway. 6 months later, the changes were undeniable. 37 airlines had adopted the real-time bias reporting app. 28 million had been awarded through the Thompson Skyline scholarships. 214 employees industry-wide had been terminated for discrimination violations. And in a final twist of justice, Cheryl Williams was spotted serving coffee at a truck stop off I-95, her aviation career permanently grounded. As for Zara and Nia, they became the youngest recipients of the Congressional Medal of Honor for Civil Rights, their story taught in business schools and law classrooms across America. But perhaps the sweetest victory came when they boarded their next first-class flight. The gate agent took one look at their boarding passes and burst into applause. "Welcome aboard, Ms. Thompsons. We've been expecting you." The legacy of that single flight stretched far beyond the runway. 5 years later, the aviation industry bore little resemblance to its former self. Every major U.S. airport now featured Thompson kiosks, AI-powered reporting stations, where passengers could document discrimination in real time. 87% of flight crews voluntarily wore "I'll intervene" pins signaling allyship with marginalized travelers. Zara's Young Aviators program had placed 214 graduates in airline corporate offices as diversity officers. But the most unexpected development came when the twins returned to Reagan National not as passengers but as honored guests at the unveiling of the Aviation Equality Wing. There, immortalized in bronze, stood a statue of two black teenagers holding boarding passes, their calm defiance forever memorialized beneath the inscription, "Dignity has no seat assignment." As Nia livestreamed the ceremony to 3.2 million viewers, an elderly black woman approached Zara with tears in her eyes. "I was a freedom rider in '61, she whispered. "You girls did with one iPhone what took us years of marches." The twins' greatest achievement. When Skyline Airlines, now under new ownership, renamed their entire first-class section Thompson Class. The seats came with a guarantee: every passenger treated with dignity, or your flight is free.